In a world flooded with noise, distractions, and emotional chaos, few people know how to truly think. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, discovered the ancient art of clear thought. His wisdom teaches us how to rise above confusion, control our emotions, and see reality as it is. This is not just philosophy. It's mental discipline, clarity, and power over your mind. To think clearly, you must rise above emotion, not by rejecting it, but by mastering it. Marcus Aurelius knew that emotions are powerful forces. They can give energy or destroy peace. Anger, fear, envy, pride, and sadness are natural human responses, yet they can cloud perception, distort judgment, and push reason aside. The Stoic path is not about being cold or emotionless. It is about understanding emotions so deeply that they lose their control over you. Marcus often reminded himself that when the mind is calm, it sees truth clearly, but when it is disturbed, even simple matters appear chaotic. The goal, therefore, is inner stability, to remain centered no matter what storms arise around you. Emotions are the waves on the surface of the ocean. Your reason is the depth beneath them. If you live only on the surface, you will be tossed by every wave. But if you learn to dive deeper, to connect with the calm below, no external force can shake you. Marcus achieved this calm through self-awareness. Whenever he felt anger or frustration, he paused to examine the cause. He asked, "Is this worth disturbing my peace? Or is this something within my control?" Most of the time, he realized it was not. The moment you identify the source of your emotion, it begins to lose its power. What remains is understanding, and with understanding comes clarity. To rise above emotion does not mean suppressing it. Suppression only buries the feeling deeper, where it continues to influence you unconsciously. True mastery means observing the emotion as it arises, naming it, and letting it pass without attachment. Marcus saw emotions as judgments, mental opinions about events. If you change the judgment, you change the feeling. For instance, if you see insult as harm, you feel pain. But if you see it as ignorance or weakness in another person, you feel compassion instead. In this way, reason becomes the filter through which emotion must pass. One of the greatest tests of emotional strength is how you respond to provocation. Marcus ruled an empire and faced betrayal, war, and loss, yet he reminded himself constantly not to let others dictate his state of mind. "You have power over your mind," he wrote, "not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When people act unjustly or speak with cruelty, the Stoic response is not revenge, but understanding, to see their behavior as a product of ignorance or suffering. This shift from reaction to reflection transforms emotion into insight. Emotions thrive in imagination. When you worry about the future or dwell on the past, you feed emotions that have no anchor in reality. Marcus practiced bringing his mind back to the present moment, where clarity lives. He reminded himself that the future is uncertain and the past is gone. Only the present can be acted upon. In the present, emotions lose their grip because they cannot survive without mental projection. Fear fades when you focus on the step before you. Anger fades when you see things from a wider perspective. Another part of emotional mastery is detachment from ego. Many emotions arise from wounded pride or unmet expectations. The desire to be right, to be admired, to control outcomes, all these create emotional turbulence. Marcus trained himself to accept that the universe moves according to its own order, not his will. When you release the need to control everything, emotions lose their fuel. You learn to accept change, loss, and imperfection as natural. This acceptance creates serenity, and serenity is the foundation of clear thought. To rise above emotion is to live from the higher self, the part of you that observes instead of reacts, that reasons instead of panics. You begin to see that emotions are temporary visitors. They come and go, but your mind remains. When the storm passes, the sky is still there, vast and untouched. That sky is your true nature, calm, rational, and free. Marcus Aurelius discovered that wisdom is not found in suppressing emotion, but in transcending it through reason, perspective, and self-command. When you rise above emotion, you don't lose your humanity, you perfect it. To think clearly, you must first master your perceptions, because everything you experience in life begins with how you interpret reality. Marcus Aurelius understood that the mind can either be your greatest ally or your most dangerous enemy. He wrote that the external world does not disturb you, only your judgments about it do. This means that events, people, and challenges are neutral in themselves. It is your perception that gives them meaning. When you see life through a distorted lens of fear, anger, or ego, your mind loses clarity. But when you learn to separate what is happening from how you feel about it, you begin to regain control of your inner world. Imagine two people facing the same situation. One feels defeated, the other feels challenged. The difference is not in the situation but in perception. Mastering perception is learning to see reality without unnecessary emotion, without exaggeration, and without lies. It is learning to observe your thoughts before they control you. Every time you label something as good or bad, ask yourself, compared to what? For how long? Who decided that? The Stoics believed that much of human suffering comes not from what happens to us, but from the stories we create around those events. If you can control that story, you can control your peace. Marcus Aurelius trained himself daily to return to this truth. When faced with loss, insult, or pain, he reminded himself that these are just impressions, momentary interpretations of the mind. He practiced stepping back, like a philosopher watching his own emotions from a distance. This self-observation creates space between stimulus and response, a space where reason can breathe. That space is where clarity begins. You realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the observer behind them. To master your perceptions is to live consciously. It means not letting others' opinions or society's noise define your understanding. People project their fears, expectations, and illusions. If you absorb them blindly, you inherit their confusion. Marcus Aurelius advised himself to be like a rock against which the waves break, steady, unshaken, and calm. No matter what happens around you, your perception must remain guided by reason. Instead of reacting instantly to events, you learn to pause, question, and respond with wisdom. This mastery also requires humility. You must admit that your first impression is often wrong. The mind loves to jump to conclusions, but wisdom waits. The wise person does not assume. He investigates. He seeks truth, not comfort. When you learn to slow down your thinking and look deeply, illusions begin to fade. What seemed like a disaster may be a lesson. What appeared as an enemy may be a teacher. Clarity does not mean ignoring emotion. It means understanding it without being ruled by it. The goal is not to see the world as cold or detached, but to see it as it truly is. When your perception is clear, you can act with strength and fairness. You no longer waste energy fighting shadows or defending your ego. You stop trying to change things beyond your control and instead focus on changing the way you perceive them. Life becomes lighter because you are no longer resisting reality. Marcus Aurelius believed that peace comes from living in agreement with nature, with the truth of what is. The world will never stop testing you, but if your perception remains disciplined, no chaos can conquer your mind. Every day offers a chance to practice this art. When someone offends you, when plans fail, when fear arises, in each moment you can remind yourself, it is not the thing itself, but my judgment of it. Once you understand this deeply, confusion ends and clear thinking begins. The mind never stops speaking. From the moment you wake up, a stream of thoughts begins, analyzing, judging, fearing, comparing, imagining. Most people live trapped inside this endless inner conversation without realizing it. Marcus Aurelius understood that if you want to think clearly, you must learn to control that inner dialogue. Every decision, every emotion, every perception begins with the words you tell yourself. The quality of your inner speech determines the quality of your life. When your thoughts are noisy, confused, or reactive, your mind becomes a battlefield. But when you train your inner dialogue to be calm, disciplined, and rational, you begin to think like a philosopher. Marcus wrote to himself in meditations not to please others, but to train his own mind. His writings were reminders to stay focused, to return to reason, and to silence the noise of unnecessary thoughts. He believed that we all carry within us the ability to guide our minds, but few people use it consciously. Instead of mastering their thoughts, people become servants of their impulses. They let anger, fear, and vanity write their inner monologue. To control the inner dialogue means to take back authorship, to become the writer of your own mind. You can observe your thoughts as if watching clouds pass through the sky. Some are dark, others light. Some stay longer than others, but none of them are you. This awareness is the first step toward mastery. When you catch yourself saying, I can't, I'm not enough, or this is unfair, pause and question it. Who is speaking? Is it reason or emotion? Is this thought helping me or harming me? Stoic practice is about replacing impulsive reactions with rational clarity. Marcus reminded himself daily that his mind was his domain. a sacred space no external power could invade unless he allowed it. A controlled inner dialogue is not about suppressing thoughts, but guiding them. It's about choosing what deserves your attention. If you constantly focus on complaints, you strengthen weakness. If you focus on gratitude, patience, and truth, you strengthen peace. Every time you repeat a thought, you carve a pathway in your brain, a habit of thinking. Over time, that path becomes your default. This is why Marcus emphasized constant mental vigilance. He treated his mind like a garden, pulling out weeds before they grew into chaos. The Stoic way of controlling thought also involves self-compassion. The goal is not to be harsh with yourself, but honest. When negative thoughts arise, you do not fight them with anger. You replace them with understanding. You remind yourself that you are human, that mistakes are part of the journey, but that you always have the power to choose a better thought. Clarity comes not from perfection, but from awareness. The more aware you are of your mental patterns, the more control you gain over them. Marcus also knew that external silence supports inner silence. He avoided gossip, idle talk, and emotional debates because they fed mental disorder. To think clearly, he simplified his life, valuing solitude and reflection. He practiced speaking less but with precision, because how you speak to others reflects how you speak to yourself. When the inner voice is calm, the outer voice becomes wise. Control of the inner dialogue is a daily discipline. Every time life provokes you, you have two voices, one that reacts impulsively and one that responds wisely. The Stoic path is to strengthen the second voice until it becomes your natural response. You remind yourself, it's not what happens to me, but how I choose to think about it. This choice is freedom. It allows you to face chaos with stability, pain with courage, and uncertainty with clarity. When you master your inner dialogue, you no longer become a slave to external events. You build a fortress within your mind, quiet, strong, and luminous. From that silence, your thoughts become precise, your actions deliberate, and your perception pure. To think clearly, you must first think quietly. And to think quietly, you must rule your inner voice with wisdom, patience, and truth. The mind becomes confused when it complicates what is simple. Marcus Aurelius believed that one of the greatest obstacles to clear thinking is the tendency to overanalyze, to exaggerate, and to drown in unnecessary details. The world itself is simple, but human interpretation makes it heavy. When you learn to simplify what you see, you begin to remove the fog that clouds judgment. Clarity is not about knowing more. It is about stripping away what is false, irrelevant, or emotional until only the essence remains. Marcus practiced this mental discipline by reminding himself to look at things as they are in their basic form. When he faced challenges, he would describe them plainly. This is just pain, or this is just loss. In that simplicity, fear lost its power. The act of simplification is not ignorance, it is wisdom. It is the ability to separate truth from illusion. When something happens, your emotions rush to interpret it. This is terrible. This is unfair. This will ruin everything. But if you stop and describe the event in neutral terms, you regain control. This person spoke harshly. This plan failed. This day did not go as expected. That is all. Nothing more. The mind then sees reality instead of its emotional version of it. The Stoics believed that reason thrives in simplicity because truth itself is simple. Lies, ego, and fear create complexity. Simplifying what you see also means cutting through appearances. People are often impressed by status, wealth, or beauty, but Marcus trained himself to look deeper. He reminded himself that luxury is only polished material, that fame is only opinion, that death is only a natural process. By doing so, he freed himself from illusions that enslave most minds. To think clearly is to see the nature of things, not their decoration. When you look at life in this stripped-down way, attachments lose power and anxiety fades. You start valuing essence over appearance, meaning over noise. Life throws constant distractions, and every distraction pulls your attention away from truth. The Stoic response is to simplify your focus, to give attention only to what truly matters and is within your control. Marcus often wrote that the key to peace is to confine yourself to the present moment and to perform your duty with sincerity. That is simplicity in action. Complexity comes when you worry about the past, chase the future, and seek approval from others. The more simple your intentions, the more direct your thoughts become. Simplicity also sharpens perception. When your mind is cluttered with unnecessary thoughts, it cannot see things as they are. It reacts to shadows. But when you clear the mental field, like cleaning a dirty mirror, truth reflects itself naturally. You start understanding people better, making wiser choices, and conserving mental energy. You stop adding emotional weight to small issues. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" you ask, "What is this? What can I learn from it?" That shift from drama to observation is the mark of a clear mind. Marcus Aurelius practiced this art constantly. He would take complex ideas and reduce them to their essence. Pleasure was just a momentary sensation. Anger was a brief madness. Fear was an opinion about the future. By naming things honestly and simply, he removed their power to disturb him. The more you describe life in clear, neutral terms, the easier it becomes to act rationally. Simplicity reveals the hidden structure of reality, allowing you to navigate it with calm precision. To simplify what you see is also to simplify yourself. You stop pretending, stop chasing, stop explaining. You learn to be direct, in thought, speech, and action. The wise person does not use 10 words when one is enough. He does not chase 10 goals when one is essential. His mind, like a clear lake, reflects truth without distortion. The path to clear thinking begins not with adding more knowledge, but with removing what is unnecessary. When you simplify what you see, the world becomes transparent. And within that transparency, wisdom appears effortlessly. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that life is fleeting. Every moment that passes will never return, and every breath brings us closer to the end. To think clearly, you must remember the shortness of life, because awareness of mortality cuts through illusion. Most confusion, distraction, and worry come from forgetting that time is limited. People waste days chasing approval, arguing over trivial matters, and fearing what they cannot control, as if they will live forever. Marcus saw this as the greatest mistake of the human mind. He urged himself to wake up from forgetfulness, to live each day as if it were his last, not with despair, but with focus and purpose. When you understand how little time you truly have, clarity becomes natural. You stop clinging to unimportant things and start living deliberately. The shortness of life brings truth into sharp focus. It teaches you that many things you call problems are meaningless in the face of eternity. The insult you received, the opportunity you missed, the fear of failure, these lose their weight when you see them through the lens of mortality. Marcus wrote that soon both the offender and the offended will be gone, along with everyone who ever remembered the event. This realization is not meant to depress the soul, but to free it. When you accept the impermanence of everything, you no longer fear change, loss, or death. You begin to think and act with serenity, guided by reason rather than emotion. Remembering the shortness of life also refines your values. When time feels infinite, you can afford to be careless. But when you know it is finite, you begin to prioritize. You realize that what truly matters is not wealth, fame, or comfort, but the quality of your character and the clarity of your mind. Marcus used mortality as a mirror. Each morning he reminded himself that he might not see the evening, and each evening that he might not wake again. This was not pessimism, but wisdom. It gave him urgency without anxiety, discipline without rigidity. Every action became meaningful because it might be the last. Thinking about death helps you live more fully. It pushes you to forgive faster, to love deeper, and to let go of bitterness. Marcus saw that death equalizes everyone. Kings and beggars, philosophers and fools, all return to the same earth. This truth humbles the ego and brings peace to the mind. It reminds you that reputation and legacy are temporary, that the only thing you truly own is your present awareness and how you use it. When you stop fearing the end, you stop wasting life in fear. The mind becomes light, focused, and free. The Stoics used this practice, known as memento mori, not to glorify death, but to purify thought. Marcus understood that when death is kept close in memory, clarity follows naturally. You stop postponing what matters. You stop living for others' opinions. You start asking, if this were my last day, is this how I would want to spend it? That question dissolves confusion instantly. It removes false ambitions and emotional noise. You begin to see that every day is both a gift and a responsibility, a chance to think, act, and live with integrity. Life's brevity also reminds you to find beauty in small things, the warmth of sunlight, the quiet of dawn, the simplicity of being alive. When you realize that each moment will pass, you cherish it more deeply. Marcus urged himself not to waste time complaining about what he lacked, but to appreciate what he still had. Gratitude and mortality are intertwined. Only the person who remembers death learns to value life. To remember the shortness of life is to wake up from the dream of permanence. It is to see reality as it is, fragile, transient, and yet full of meaning. The clarity that comes from this awareness transforms fear into wisdom and urgency into peace. Marcus Aurelius lived by this truth, that every breath is borrowed, every moment a chance to live with reason and virtue. When you hold this thought close, you stop chasing illusions and begin to live with the clear mind of one who truly understands time. To think clearly is not only to understand life, but to act upon that understanding. Marcus Aurelius believed that wisdom must be lived, not merely known. He taught that a clear mind expresses itself through rational action, decisions guided by truth, virtue, and calm deliberation, not by passion or impulse. Most people react to life instinctively, driven by emotion, fear, or desire. They speak without thinking, chase what glitters, and avoid what challenges them. But the Stoic way demands a higher discipline. Before every action, pause and ask, is this rational? Is this right? That moment of reflection separates wisdom from chaos. Acting according to reason means choosing integrity over convenience, patience over haste, and understanding over anger. Impulses are quick. They rise suddenly and push you toward regret. Reason, however, is deliberate. It weighs options, considers consequences, and aligns action with principle. Marcus practiced this mental pause constantly. As emperor, surrounded by temptation and power, he trained himself to remain humble and just. He reminded himself that his duty was not to please the crowd or seek glory, but to live according to nature, meaning in harmony with logic, virtue, and the universal order. When you act by impulse, you lose control of yourself. You become a servant of emotion, swayed by whatever mood or situation arises. But when you act by reason, you regain authority over your inner world. Every rational action builds strength of character. Each time you resist anger, pride, or fear, you reinforce clarity and peace. Marcus understood that freedom does not come from doing what you want, but from doing what is right despite what you feel. Impulse says, I must respond now. Reason says, wait, think, and then decide. That small delay is the space where wisdom lives. This principle also applies to judgment. It is easy to label people as enemies or fools, but Marcus urged himself to understand them instead. Reason seeks truth. Impulse seeks victory. When you see through reason, you stop fighting unnecessary battles. You begin to recognize that everyone acts according to their understanding, and that anger toward them only weakens you. Rational action, therefore, includes compassion, because it recognizes the shared humanity beneath all behavior. To live by reason also means accepting that not everything will go as you wish. When faced with failure or misfortune, impulse complains and blames. Reason accepts, adapts, and moves forward. Marcus saw the universe as a vast, ordered system in which every event serves a purpose, even if the mind cannot see it yet. Acting rationally means cooperating with that order, doing your part with dignity and leaving the rest to fate. This perspective dissolves frustration. You focus on effort, not outcome, on virtue, not victory. Every day tests this principle. Someone will offend you, plans will fail, or fear will arise. In those moments, the untrained mind reacts, but the disciplined one chooses. Marcus practiced asking himself, what would nature have me do right now? The answer was often simple: to be honest, patient, and fair. Clear thinking transforms into clear action only through consistency. Wisdom is not revealed in words, but in behavior repeated through time. Acting according to reason is the final expression of all Stoic training. Master your perception, control your inner dialogue, simplify your vision, rise above emotion, remember the brevity of life. All these principles lead to this one point: action guided by truth. Thought without action is incomplete. When reason directs your choices, life itself becomes harmonious. You stop being at war with yourself. Every step, every word, and every silence carries intention. Marcus Aurelius lived as proof that calm judgment is greater than passion, and that the rational mind, when disciplined by virtue, is the highest form of power. Clarity of thought is not a gift, but a practice, a daily training of the mind to see, to understand, and to act rightly. Marcus Aurelius showed that peace and wisdom are born not from external success, but from internal mastery. When you control your perceptions, guide your inner voice, simplify what you see, rise above emotion, remember the shortness of life, and act according to reason, you align with the natural order of truth. The result is freedom. freedom from confusion, from fear, and from the noise of the world. Clear thinking is not about removing emotion or denying reality. It is about seeing reality as it truly is and responding with balance, discipline, and purpose. Life is brief, the mind is fragile, and the world is uncertain, but within the calm space of reason, there is strength. To think clearly, as Marcus Aurelius taught, is to live wisely, and to live wisely is to live in peace.